We all know about this nerf to Recon, but the question is it still viable? Since the launch of the finals, this specialization has dominated every single game, and it's easy to see why. Information on the enemy team's location is the most important thing to have when playing any competitive game. So the fact that with Recon, before patch 1.6, you can see enemies throughout the entire map was simply overpowered. Recon's first nerf was increasing the activation cost and decreasing the minimum charge to activate, which was a very light nerf in my opinion. And yes, Recon shouldn't be as readily available, but it really didn't address the bigger issue. The biggest issue would be addressed in patch 1.6, which dramatically decreased the distance that players using Recon can see the enemies to 30 meters. So this was a huge nerf, and coming from a Recon player, it was necessary. But does this nerf mean that Recon is no longer playable? Currently, most players are running two strats, or two team compositions I should say. You have double heavy medium, where both heavies have dome shield and mesh shield. Or you have double heavy medium, where one heavy's running goo and you have one heavy running mesh, and they both have dome, while the medium heals both of the heavies. And this is basically taking the dogs out for a walk. The other strat that is widely played in the higher levels in the finals is double medium heavy, where you have a heavy who has both mesh and dome, and both of the mediums have heals. So that is basically a super heavy. Those are the two strongest compositions that come to mind, but I know there's plenty others, and if you have a team comp that you like to run, let me know in the comments down below. But where does Recon fit into all of this? I believe that triple Recon strat days might be over after this nerf. But if we go back to what I said initially, what is the most important thing in competitive games like the finals? Information. Yes, you are limited to 30 meters, but that's still a radius large enough to play on cash outs that are in close quarter areas, which is where most of the cash outs are. Unless it is suspended structures or on a moving platform, I think Recon is still viable. A lot of the finals is about destruction. So destroying walls to have a better viewpoint of the cash out, dropping cash outs with C4 to prevent steals, just shows how a heavy's ability to destroy structures is paramount to a team's composition. So where does Recon fit into these playstyles? Well, I got some news for you. If you're playing Recon, you have the most important job. You need to do these things to make sure that Recon is actually worth playing on your team. If you're not doing these things, then it's not worth it, and play healer or put on a turret so you can have somebody else shoot for you. Calling out. The amount of people that love to play Recon and be silent all game is pretty insane. So you're supposed to provide your team with as much info as possible with the types of strats that I mentioned before, where all the cash outs are typically in close quarters, and 30 meters is enough distance to cover a cash out, in my opinion. And how about this? No, you can't see where an enemy is on the map, but if you had a brain and you would know the possible spawns when you're cashing out, and the game literally tells you when the enemy team is spawning, do you really need to see people across the map on Recon to have an idea where teams can be coming from? I don't think so, and if you do, you should probably go play Minecraft or something, because FPS games aren't for you. Second, you have to play with your teammates. Just because you can see through structures doesn't mean your teammates can see through structures, and doesn't mean you should be fighting those teams on the other side of the structures all by yourself. So playing around your teammates is just as important as a healer playing on a heavy. It is your job to call out who the team shoot. I can't stress enough how two people shooting one person is more consistent than taking 1v1s that don't really matter, even though it's nice to take a big old dump on someone while you're half health and you just turned on them. But seriously, guys, if you have Recon, you need to team shoot. Call out who you're shooting and your team will shoot the same person. And if you're quiet, Recon isn't for you. You have to be the most vocal one on the team and call out any flanks. You have to call out when to disengage and when to re-engage based on the info you acquire from Recon. So if you're getting third party, hey guys, let's back up, let's reposition ourselves, and then figure out how to get back into the fight. Don't just keep fighting in between two teams getting pinched. So With Recon, you can prevent that from happening. You have a heads up on the play while your team is fighting another team. You see another team coming from behind you. That's how Recon is supposed to work. And lastly, be patient. I know that feeling when you get someone half shields or maybe even one shot and you want to fly in by yourself and get that kill, but your healer and your heavy are 30 meters behind you. Don't be that guy. Wait for your teammates, because yes, you might see that guy, you might want to chase him. Shit, you might even get the kill, but you should know that he's running towards his teammates. So the other options, instead of getting the kills, he gets healed, he gets defibbed, or you take a big old nuke in your mouth. Unless you're running APS. But seriously, be patient and push together when it makes sense. It is ultimately your call, because you're the one with info on when to push, on when to play a little bit more passive. So people who are playing Recon out there, you guys are basically IGL during fights and coming up with strats. Heavy can set up and put C4 down and lay out the goo and do as much as he can to open up plays with nukes. But at the end of the day, you have Recon and you have to provide all the info that you're getting to your team. And I will say this one more time. If you don't like to call out and you don't like to talk, Recon is not for you. I'm sorry. So all in all, yes, you can still use Recon, but be a team player, because those times where you can use Recon as much as you want and as far as you want are long over.